Hey guys, Victor here coming to you with another deck profile, and for today's video we're going to be doing an updated Lightsworn Tearlament deck profile. Now, when it comes to the deck itself, it's definitely one of the more hampered variants of this type of deck, and by this type of deck I mean like Tearlament deck, just because it does lose a lot harder to cards such as Molcharmy Fulos, but even so, it's still incredibly fun. You're still able to mill your entire deck, and it's honestly still pretty ignorant with the boards that you can make with this deck. Now, as for how I wanted to build it, I ultimately decided just to basically bank on going first every single time. Even though I don't have the greatest track record of going first, it's perfectly fine just for like the basics of this deck profile. So as a result, you're not going to see me playing any cards that typically tend to like break boards, or prevent boards like Droll, Nibiru, Talents, Droplet, Super Poly, nothing like that. It's just entirely focused on going first for the most part. So with that out of the way, let's just jump straight into it. As always, we're going to be starting off with the monster lineup first, and we're going to be focusing on the tier portion first as well. So as a result, we're going to be playing 3 Tearlaments Kashtira to mill 3 cards during our turn and our opponent's turn, and then if it's sent to the grave by card effect, you get to mill 2 more. Then we're only going to be playing 2 Tearlaments Reinoheart. So unlike normal Tearlament, since this is a hybrid version, you don't really want to focus entirely on the Reinoheart itself, especially because we are going to be lacking in the dark department, as we're going to be playing a lot of light monsters because of the Lightsworn portion of the deck. But even so, it's still a fantastic card, and even though it is at 2, we still have plenty of ways to have easy access to it. So it's not like the be-all end-all where you always want to see it in your opening hand like it would be a normal Tearlament. So 2, perfectly fine. And then for the 1-0s being the 1 Merlli, the 1 Havnis, and the 1 Scheiren. Pretty straightforward stuff for the most part, literally standard ratios except for maybe the Reinoheart, but that's more just like the nature of this specific deck. If you want to play 3 Reinoheart, you totally can. It's just there are a couple more normal summons in this deck that sometimes we would prefer using over the Reinoheart, which is also like one of the main reasons why we don't play 3 of it. Then that's it for the tier portion, and then for the Lightsworn portion, we're playing 3 Weiss Lightsworn Archfiend, by far the most important of the Lightsworn cards in the entire deck, just because, one, it's a light fiend, so spoiler, we are going to be taking advantage of the fiendsmith engine in this deck, and as a result, this card, whether you're normal summoning it or special summoning it, does mean that you are essentially going to be unlocking full combo for the most part. But you know, it's also able to take like your breaks in your hand, whether it's like Wulf or Felis, stack them on top, and special summon itself and mill 2 cards. If it's milled and brings back Lightsworn monsters from the graveyard, like this card, it really just does it all, and it's honestly not even that bad of a normal summon either, like I said, just because it does give you access to full fiendsmith engine, and by normal summoning it and putting itself in the graveyard, it also in turn gives you access to Lightsworn Dragonling's effect, where if you have a Lightsworn monster in your grave, which is very easy to do because of the link 1 being fiendsmith requiem, you can special summon your Dragonling, and then you have access to your entire Lightsworn engine right then and there, as on special, it's able to foolish any Lightsworn monster, spell, or trap from your deck to the grave, and then you just proceed to basically synchro climb into your Minerva synchro, into your Visa synchro, overlay into like zombie vampire, and then you've already milled like half your deck while searching key pieces of your deck. Yeah, even though this card is incredibly broken, it's not the be-all end-all. You can 100% still make those plays without this card, which is one of the main reasons why you only see me playing 2 instead of 3. It's perfectly fine at 2. And then for another 2 of Lightsworn monster that we're playing the 2 Wulf Lightsworn Beast. You mill it, it special summons itself. And then for the 1 Felis Lightsworn Archer, it's fine. You don't get its effect if it's milled off a spell, so if you mill it off of like Scream or your Charge of the Light Brigades, it just stays in your graveyard. Ideally that doesn't happen, and you end up milling it off of like a Weiss or any of your other monsters, but you know, it's perfectly fine as is. Then that's it for the Lightsworn portion, and we do play the small fiendsmith engine as previously mentioned, being the 2 fiendsmith engravers and the 1 fabled lurrie. It's fine. The only goal with this, we're not playing Pilgrim Reaper this time. Instead, we're just going to go straight into High King Caesar to ensure that we don't get like nibbed or anything, or even Bestialed. So yeah, it's fine. It's pretty expensive just to go into 1 High King Caesar, but it's definitely worth it in the long run. Then for just good cards that help the deck out, we're playing 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. So while this does not contribute to anything in the deck, it does prevent us from auto losing to Molcharmy Fulos, which, like I said earlier, is a pretty powerful card at just invalidating our entire deck, because we need to summon as many cards from the graveyard and the extra deck as possible. Our graveyard deck. No, sorry, the graveyard one doesn't exist yet, but we do special summon a lot from the deck, and especially from the extra deck. So yeah, you definitely do need the Ash Blossom because it's pretty important, just to be able to continue to play your game and hopefully not give your opponent a million cards. Then we're playing 2 Beastking of the Swamps, literally just there for Tearlaments Reinoheart and potentially Exceed Summoning Bahamut Shark. And then for the final monster, the 1 Mudora, the Sword Oracle, because we need at least 1 Shuffler. And with that, that's the monster lineup, and now we can finally move on to the spell and trap portion. Now, as always, when it comes to the spell and trap lineup, whenever a Tearlament deck or a Lightsworn card is involved, it's basically going to be outnumbered 3-1, but even so, each card is extremely impactful in what it does. So, as a result, we're going to be playing 3 Primeval Planet Perlereino. It adds any Tearlament monster from your deck to your hand and boosts all your tiers and fusions by 500. And when a tier gets shuffled back into the deck, it pops a card. Card's insane. And then for the only other 3 that we play, 3 Charge of the Light Brigade, mill 3, add any Lightsworn. Really straightforward. And then depending on what your hand looks like, you can definitely make a case for basically adding any single one of them, right? There are situations where you would want to add a Weiss, you would want to add a Dragonling, you would even want to add a felis or a wulf in some situations depending on what your hand looks like. So yeah, just take a good look at what your hand needs and then add appropriately. Then for the 2 ofs, we're only playing 1, being the Tearlaments Scream. So we only play 2 Reinoheart, we only play 2 Scream. Like I said, they're not the main focus of this deck. They're more of just there to help us enhance our plays. So as a result, 2 of each is perfectly fine. Then for the 1 ofs, the 1 Grief, the 1 Reasoning, and the 1 Foolish Burial, they're all essentially the same card. Foolish is a targeted mill, Reasoning is a blind mill, and then Tearlaments Grief is essentially the emergency teleport plus Foolish Burial combined into 1. So yeah, they basically all have the same function for the most part. Then we have the 1 Fiendsmith tract to go with our Fiendsmith engine, and the 1 Called by the Grave as another possible measure to be able to try and stop Mole Charming Foolos and any Dimension Shifters that will be played on you, because Dimension Shifter is a pretty popular card, unfortunately. And then that's it for the spells, and then for the traps, just 2 Tearlaments Sulliek. You don't need any Trivy Karmas or anything like that, just because we play Visas Amritara in the extra deck, which means that we have access to quite literally any single Tearlament spell and trap in our deck at any given time. So yeah, with that, that's the spell and trap lineup, and now we can finally move on to the extra deck. Now for the extra deck, we're going to be starting off with the Synchro monsters first, and as a result, we're going to be playing the 1 Minerva Synchro. It's a potentially up to, it's basically a mill 6, but it's a controlled mill 2, as on Synchro Summon, you're pretty much always going to be using 2 Lightsworn monsters to make it, which means that you get to mill 2 more Lightsworn monsters, and then those ones will in turn let you Synchro Summon Visas Amritara, who will search out any single Tearlament spell or trap in your deck. So just off of like your Lightsworn engine itself, you quite literally opened up access to both parts of your deck. As the Minerva, like I said, it mills 2 more to make this, and then it mills 4 cards blindly, and then the Visas will search out either like your planet, your Scream, a sulliek, whatever you may need to help you like progress your hand or game state. And once you're done using both of their effects, you will then overlay them to make the Zombie Vampire, which allows you to mill 4 more cards from your deck and your opponent's deck. And yeah, once these cards resolve, the game's basically over at that point, because you've quite literally milled essentially half your deck or have access to over half your deck at that point, just off of these 3 extra deck cards. And you have full knowledge of what your opponent is playing as well, because the Zombie Vampire has milled 4 of their cards. So yeah, pretty good combo. For the other Exceeds, we're playing the 1 Bahamut Shark to make Toadally Awesome, because this deck is in desperate need of some kind of Omni Negate, and luckily for us, Toadally Awesome is just that card. And then for the final Exceed monster, we're playing the 1 DDD Wave Hiking Caesar. This is, like I said earlier, the only card that we're going to be making with the Fiendsmith engine. However, if you want and you feel like you're comfortable enough playing with just Toad and like Tearlaments Reinoheart, for example, you don't have to play the Hiking Caesar. You could just play like Pilgrim Reaper instead, to be able to just mill 5 more cards. Or there are other options for rank 6s as well, right? You can play Evolzar Lars, you can play Photon Strike Bouncer. The decisions and the choices that you have are there, but I feel like Hiking Caesar specifically is just probably the best, being that it's a solemn warning essentially that you can use twice. It's free fodder for if you want to make like with an IP or send it off of your Tearlaments Sulliek. But yeah, Hiking Caesar, pretty good. That's it for the Exceeds. And then for the links, you play the 1 Requiem and the 1 Moon of the Closed Heaven for your Fiendsmith engine. Then you play the 1 IP Masquerena to be able to go into your SP Little Knight during your opponent's turn. And that's it for the links. And then for the fusions, And we're playing the one Necro-equipped Princess to be able to go into our Insta rank 6 using our Fiendsmith cards. The one Mudragon of the Swamp to help us make our Bahamut Toad plays a little bit more easy. And then we have the Predaplant Dragostapelia, which is essentially going to be like a little loop kind of, as we're constantly cycling between the two to ensure that we never like deck out or anything like that. And then for the tier fusions, we're playing the one Rucolos and the one Kaleidoheart. And with that, that's the Lightsworn Tearlament deck. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya!